Marcus Wilson stunned fans by declining a record-breaking contract with a championship team to play for less money with an underdog team instead. For 2 weeks after receiving both offers, he disappeared from public view, speaking to no one but his wife. Sports writers filled columns with speculation and advice. When he finally announced his decision, reporters demanded explanations. He responded, "I made this choice in silence, and that silence showed me what matters most to me. I can't expect you to understand a journey you weren't part of." His unconventional choice ultimately led to innovations in playing style that defined his legendary career. What important decision are you currently facing? How might your thinking change if you created a sanctuary of silence around this choice? Remember that external voices are loudest when decisions matter most, precisely when you need to hear yourself clearly. Most people make life's biggest choices surrounded by the most noise. The successful create quiet spaces where authentic wisdom can emerge. Will you let others' opinions determine your path, or will you find the silence to hear your own, finding meaning beyond recognition? Look at people who constantly talk about making a difference, compared to those quietly creating change every day. One group seeks recognition for their intentions. The other seeks impact through their actions. The difference reveals much about true purpose. Announcing good intentions often substitutes for doing good work. When you publicly declare your desire to help others, create change, or make a difference, you receive immediate social rewards. This creates a dangerous illusion, the feeling of being purposeful without the effort of actually creating impact. True purpose doesn't need constant external validation. It finds satisfaction in the work itself and the results it creates, whether recognized or not. Develop silent purpose by focusing on results rather than recognition. Ask, would I do this work if no one ever knew it was me? Practice finding satisfaction in the impact itself, not the credit you receive. Look for opportunities to contribute anonymously. When you do something helpful, resist the urge to ensure others know about your role. Build relationships with those who value substance over appearance, who ask what you've accomplished rather than how you appear. What purposes in your life are driven more by how they look than the difference they make? How might your impact grow if you cared less about being seen as purposeful and more about creating actual change? Remember that the most meaningful work often happens in spaces where no one is watching or applauding. Many people perform goodness. The successful embody it, whether seen or unseen. Will you choose a purpose that feeds your image, or one that thrives in silence while changing the world around you, protecting your energy? Have you noticed how the most accomplished people seem selective about their commitments? While others say yes to every request, successful individuals often respond with purposeful silence. They understand that every yes to something unimportant is a silent no to something vital. Energy is your most precious resource, yet most people give it away carelessly. Each time you agree to a project that doesn't align with your goals, attend an event out of obligation, or engage with people who drain your spirit, you're spending irreplaceable energy. The noise of endless commitments drowns out the signal of what truly matters. Without clear boundaries, protected by deliberate silence, your most important work remains undone while your calendar fills with everyone else's priorities. Creating silent boundaries starts with pausing before every commitment. When asked to do something, replace your automatic yes with, "Let me check and get back to you." During this pause, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this align with my current priorities? Is this something only I can do? Will I still feel good about this commitment next week? Practice saying no directly but kindly, without lengthy explanations that invite debate. Remember that unclear boundaries require constant maintenance, while clear ones enforce themselves. Robert Jameson transformed his career. After several successful but exhausting projects left him creatively empty, he disappeared from the industry for 3 months. Upon return, he instituted what colleagues called his silent wall. He stopped answering calls directly, refused to attend industry functions, and declined seemingly prestigious opportunities without explanation. Critics called him difficult and ungrateful. When finally asked about this behavior, he explained, "I realized I was saying yes to everything except what mattered most, creating meaningful films." My silence isn't rejection. It's protection of the energy needed for my best work. Where in your life are you saying yes when silence would better serve your true priorities? How many of your current commitments would you accept if you were offered them today? Notice how explanations for your boundaries often turn into negotiations that weaken those very boundaries. Most people build their lives responding to the loudest demands. The successful respond only to the most important. Will you continue to let the noise of others' expectations drown out the quiet voice of your own purpose? Or will you use silence to create the boundaries your best work requires? The strength of your boundaries ultimately determines the quality of your work and life. Each time you silently decline what doesn't serve your purpose, you create space for what does. This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship of your limited energy for your highest contribution. The world doesn't need more exhausted people saying yes to everything. It needs focused individuals who protect their capacity to do what matters most. Your ability to maintain silence in the face of demands may feel uncomfortable at first, but this discomfort is merely the growing pain of reclaiming your power. Let your silence speak the truth that your time leading without dominating. Watch leaders in any setting. The ones who command genuine respect often speak less than you'd expect. While others fight for airtime and attention, these quiet forces create impact through their attentive presence rather than constant words. Dominating conversations actually diminishes your leadership influence. When you talk too much in meetings, interrupt others' ideas, or feel compelled to have the final word, you send a powerful message: your voice matters more than others. This creates superficial compliance, but kills genuine commitment. People may follow your directions, but withhold their best thinking and effort. True leadership influence grows not from speaking more, but from creating space where others can contribute their best thinking. Develop silent leadership by practicing the speak last principle in group settings. Enter conversations with questions rather than statements. When someone shares an idea, respond first with curiosity instead of evaluation. Count silently to 3 before speaking to prevent interrupting others. Make eye contact with quieter team members and directly invite their input. Record how much you speak in meetings compared to others and gradually reduce your talking time while increasing your listening quality. Patricia Winters revolutionized her struggling company using exactly this approach. Previously known for dominating every discussion with her expertise, she surprised her team by opening a critical strategy meeting with a question, then remaining silent for nearly the entire session. When team members looked to her for answers, she simply asked, "What do you think?" The uncomfortable silence eventually gave way to ideas from people who had never spoken up before. One suggestion from a typically quiet engineer led to their most profitable product line. Later, she explained, "I realized my expertise was actually our biggest liability. It was preventing others from sharing theirs. My silence created space for solutions I could never have provided." How might your own expertise sometimes become a barrier to better solutions? What would happen if you deliberately spoke less in your next 3 meetings? Notice how difficult it feels to resist filling silence. This discomfort reveals how deeply we equate leadership with talking. Most people lead through assertion. The successful lead through attention. Will you continue seeking influence through dominance, or will you discover the greater power of your silent presence? Remember that silence in leadership isn't about being passive or uninvolved. It's an active, purposeful choice to create space where others can think, contribute, and grow. The most powerful statement you can make as a leader is showing that you value others' thinking enough to be quiet and truly hear it. This silent confidence demonstrates that you're secure enough in your own value to shine light on others rather than yourself. Paradoxically, the less you use your authority to dominate conversations, the more your actual influence grows. Your silence doesn't reduce your impact. It multiplies it through the collected wisdom and commitment of everyone around you. Consistency without announcement. Look at people who loudly announce their new habits, diets, or workout plans. Now look at those who transform their lives without fanfare. The pattern becomes clear. Those who talk most about their discipline often show the least of it in practice. Public commitment creates an illusion of progress that can sabotage actual achievement. When you announce your intentions to change, you receive immediate social recognition and support. This creates a premature sense of accomplishment that can reduce your motivation to do the actual work. Your brain experiences the reward before earning it. Additionally, early public commitment invites unrequested advice and criticism when you're still developing fragile new habits. The most effective discipline often happens in quiet, private spaces where intrinsic motivation can grow without external pressure. Build silent discipline by creating private tracking systems rather than public announcements. Start new habits with a personal 30-day trial period before mentioning them to anyone. Find satisfaction in the actual results of your discipline rather than recognition for it. When you do reach meaningful milestones, share the achievement rather than the intention. Surround yourself with people who value consistent action over enthusiastic declaration. Remember that discipline isn't about intensity, it's about consistency, which thrives in steady, unnoticed moments. What changes are you currently talking about more than implementing? How might your progress improve if you redirected the energy from discussing your plans to executing them? Notice how public accountability sometimes becomes public performance that drains the private determination real change requires. Most people seek recognition for their discipline. The successful seek results from it. Will you continue announcing intentions and receiving premature praise, or will you embrace the quiet power of change without announcement? The paradox of true discipline is that it doesn't look impressive in daily practice. It consists of small, consistent actions that appear insignificant in isolation, but transformative in combination. This quiet consistency rarely makes for exciting stories. The world celebrates dramatic transformations, but rarely witnesses the silent, unglamorous work that creates them. By keeping your discipline private, you protect it from becoming a performance that serves your image rather than your goals. Your results eventually speak for you. They will tell a far more compelling story than your intentions ever could. The most powerful discipline isn't what you talk about doing. It's what you quietly do every day when no one is watching. Changing without resistance. Notice how some people loudly resist every change, while others quietly adapt and thrive. When markets shift, technologies evolve, or circumstances change unexpectedly, most respond with vocal complaint. But the most successful meet change with a striking silence, not because they don't feel the disruption, but because they're already adapting to it. Talking about change consumes energy better used for adapting to it. When you verbalize resistance through complaints, explanations, or criticism of new circumstances, you reinforce your own attachment to the way things were. Each expression of frustration deepens your emotional investment in the past and delays your adjustment to the present reality. This talking creates an illusion of action while actually preventing the mental flexibility needed for true adaptation. Develop silent adaptability by practicing when significant change occurs. Give yourself few hours of private processing before discussing it with others. During this time, ask, given that this change has happened, what opportunities might it create? Keep a private journal of change responses rather than venting publicly. When others invite you to join their complaints about change, listen respectfully, but redirect conversation toward constructive responses. Remember that adaptation happens fastest in minds not busy defending the status quo. Margaret Coleman demonstrated this approach during the industry upheaval. When new regulations threatened traditional business models, competitors held press conferences criticizing the changes and lobbying against them. Coleman remained noticeably silent during this period. While others fought the inevitable, she quietly restructured her company to leverage the new reality. When reporters finally asked about her conspicuous silence regarding the controversial changes, she replied, "The energy others spent discussing whether the rain should fall, we spent building better umbrellas." Change doesn't ask permission or respond to criticism. Her company emerged from the transition period with record growth, while vocal competitors struggled to make delayed adjustments. What change are you currently resisting more than adapting to? How might your position improve if you redirected energy from complaint to creative response? Notice how discussing your frustration often feels productive, while actually keeping you stuck in it. Most people talk about change. The successful silently create opportunity from it. Will you spend your limited energy expressing resistance to what has already happened, or silently building something new based on what is? Remember that silent adaptability isn't passive acceptance of everything that happens. It's strategic focus on response rather than reaction. The most adaptable people feel the same initial resistance as everyone else. They simply process it privately rather than amplifying it publicly. This silence creates mental space where creative solutions can emerge without being drowned out by the noise of complaint. While others are still explaining why change shouldn't happen, the silently adaptable are already discovering how to thrive within it. Your ability to meet disruption with purposeful quiet may feel unsatisfying compared to the temporary relief of vocal resistance, but it gives you the ultimate advantage, being first to the future while others remain anchored to the past, continuing when others quit. Look at anyone who has achieved something truly difficult. Behind their visible success lies a common pattern. While others talked about challenges, made excuses, or announced giving up, these achievers continued forward with quiet determination, often saying nothing at all about their struggles. Talking about difficulties often becomes an acceptable substitute for overcoming them. When facing obstacles, most people seek comfort through explaining their challenges to others. This conversation creates temporary emotional relief and social understanding that can actually reduce your drive to push through barriers. Each time you discuss why something is hard or why you might need to give up, you normalize stopping and build a case for surrender. The most persistent individuals save this energy for the work itself. Build silent persistence by creating private challenges rather than public ones. When facing obstacles, ask yourself, what's the smallest next step I can take? Then focus entirely on that step. Develop a personal rule against announcing potential failure before it happens. Find one trusted advisor for necessary venting rather than spreading discouragement among many. When tempted to explain why you might quit, redirect that energy into trying once more. Remember that persistence isn't about never feeling like giving up. It's about continuing anyway, without needing to announce your struggles. William Harrison embodied this principle during the troubled construction of his revolutionary design in 1968. When unexpected structural problems emerged, contractors publicly declared the design impossible, and financial backers began withdrawing support. Reporters contacted Harrison daily for statements about the apparent failure. Through months of crisis, he offered only one response: "We're working on solutions." Behind the scenes, he faced repeated setbacks that would have justified abandoning the project. His team marveled not just at his refusal to quit, but at his complete silence about the difficulty. When the completed building later won international awards, a journalist asked how he maintained faith during the public crisis. Harrison replied, "Speaking about the weight I was carrying would have only made it heavier." Words of doubt consume energy needed for progress. What challenge are you currently explaining more than addressing? How might your persistence improve if you stop discussing how difficult your path is? Notice how talking about obstacles often makes them feel larger rather than smaller. Most people seek understanding for their struggles. The successful seek victory over them. Will you continue using your energy to explain why your path is hard? Or will you silently redirect that energy to moving forward despite the difficulty? The power of silent persistence comes from its focus on action over explanation. When you stop talking about how hard the journey is, you free yourself from the need to justify potential failure before it happens. This silence isn't about denying reality. It's about refusing to amplify challenges through constant verbalization.